How's it going, aliens? My name's Alien. Today I'm back on another Identity 5 video, and today's video is very special. I will be doing a COA IV Global Finals prediction video along here with Fluff. Me and Fluff both watch a lot of China as well as all of the global region's competitive scenes. This includes China's IVL, all of the IVCs across regions like Japan, Southeast Asia, all of the mini tournaments they have, local tournaments, their practices, etc. So we're both very well versed in this subject and ready to give our predictions. This video will be a much more extensive look on each individual matchup in our predictions. Hopefully, it can even help you in game get the right predictions for golden apples. But if you would like a shorter video, more condensed, and much more of an overview of each of the teams and their introductions, I will link a video down from IVL Lychee below, which is, a lot very well done and just the overview and introduction of all of the teams, as this one will go a lot more into details. But here's Fluff.
Hi, okay, I'm Fluff, and you guys probably know me more as Mayhem. I decided to go for a little bit of the name change, because why not? And thanks, Alien, for having me. So one thing I noticed really looking at this bracket is compared to the brackets, especially from COA II, COA III, is that it's going to be a lot more balanced in terms of how the Chinese teams are distributed, however you pronounce it. What you'll notice is that except for one matchup, every first round match features a professional Chinese team, which gets me to my second point. Unlike previous COAs, where some of the Chinese teams, some of them were very high grade, such as GR has won every single COA, and teams like 5HS, Ace, MRC. What you're going to see here now is that those were the top teams back then. But that's kind of where it's, those were the more noticeable teams. Now, every single team representing China is a professional team. There are no amateur teams. Multiple tried, in the Chinese qualifiers, and none of them passed. So I really think that that's going to be kind of what dictates the pace of this COA and really sets it apart, is that you're going to see a domination of professional teams. But, Global has a lot of very talented teams as well, so it's going to be some pretty interesting matchups. A further thing, final note before I pass it back over to Alien, is that these matchups that we're doing, we're going to go solely based on our prediction of matchups. We're not accounting for ping, really. Although I know that, there's going to be some tricky stuff involving servers. We're not going to get into that, and I'm going to basically, assume as if every match is, on the same ping. Back to you.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So, just while we're doing all these predictions, we're just going off of everyone having the same ping, not taking that into account, purely matchup wise, what we think will happen in each matchup. And this is a much different scene this COA from the last 3 COAs, last 2 global COAs, and then of course China was COA 1, only China. Because this is the first COA where you have professional teams. All 8 China teams are professional. And in the last COA, while these teams were very strong, they were not getting, professional training on a professional salary, etc. So that's going to definitely make for an interesting tournament. So let's just jump right into the first matchup, RD versus GG. I will start off by kind of giving an introduction to both of the teams, like I will do with all these first round matchups, and then I'll kick it to Mayhem so that he can give some of his thoughts, and then back to me. So, Fluff, my bad. Fluff.
Take some adjusting. Continue.
So let's start off with RD. RD is the representative of the Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan region. RD is a very interesting team because they have 7 players, and 4 of their players, all of their 4 survivors, are from the Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan region, which is what is needed. You need the majority of your players to be from your region to qualify. However, All three of their hunters are all mainland China hunters with either IVL experience or amateur team experience. Very well known hunters, which makes RD a little bit scarier than some of the other global teams because we aren't just talking about a regular global team. We're talking about a global team of survivors that have COA experience from last COA, but also China mainland hunters. So their three hunters that they have are Crazy. Crazy is actually the winner of COA 1. He was on the original GR team that won the first ever COA. He was their hunter. He most recently was the hunter for Wolf, a professional IVL team. He hunted for them in the first season of IVL, and he is most well known for his violinist. He is regarded as one of the best violinists in the entire world. Another one of RD's hunters is Super Q. Super Q also has COA experience. He was the hunter for MFB for years. MFB is one of the most well known and was one of the best China amateur teams of its time before it disbanded. And Super Q is also a very famous good hunter. He's most well known for just playing everything meta. He's been top one Bloody Queen, he's been a great photo, he's been a great Spider, Dream Witch, whatever meta, he's probably played it. And their last China mainland hunter is Dream. Dream has also been on amateur China teams, has played in their COA regionals, but has never played in global finals as far as I know, but Dream is regarded as one of the best Mad Eyes in the entire world. He uses Blink, but his strategy is much more akin to a teleport Mad Eyes, to where he's not just fully chase, he actually starts off by hitting people with walls, trapping people, and then he goes into chase. His Mad Eyes is just very, very skilled and one of the most fun hunters to watch. GG is a professional IVL team. GG finished third in IVL finals, fall finals. They finished third in IVL fall finals, and they finished third in IVL summer finals. So they are one of the top teams in all of the world. GG actually got an automatic bid into COA because they were one of the top two teams record wise, points wise in China's IVL. So them along with ZQ got a free spot into COA. GG is most well known for their hunter PP Shah. PP Shah is one of the best bonbons in the entire world. His camping is probably the best. He's a peeper bonbon. They use a lot of hospital strats. Their secondary hunter, Sham, is also very strong. He's also a bonbon main, as bad as bonbon in China. He's been a great violinist, spider main, etc. So they have a great hunter department. A little bit more off meta, but great hunter department regardless. And then their survivors are also very strong. They're known for playing counter comps, for countering certain hunters such as Dream Witch. They're known for 445. He's he's regarded as the best cowboy in the entire world, and that's a good overview of RD versus GG for you. Two very good teams facing off in the first round. So Fluff, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
So going into it, like you said, this is going to be a scary match where I think there's a little bit of upset potential for RD, but I think I'm going to favor GG to win this round, and here's why. GG is just like you said, it's a professional team with great professional track record. Finishing third in both seasons, in the playoffs, and for a long time in each season, they dominate the top of their leaderboard, in terms of ranking throughout the IVL seasons. So this is a very dominant team. Pibeja, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Very talented hunter. And he brings a lot to the table, like you said, because, his bonbon's incredible, but so is that, he's a really strong Dream Witch, and he's a really strong violinist, and he can play sculptor. He's a very good hunter. But also, like you said, we, even though they haven't really used Zom much, this is a team that we haven't seen play since IVL because they got the auto bid. So I don't really know what hunter strat they're going to come in with, but I'm going to imagine it's going to be a lead off of first round Bonbon. And like you said, the counter comp skill of GG is, I think, actually going to be a huge factor into it. Is you're looking at, it's going to be hard for RD to take a good approach with that Crazy's Violinist first round or Dreams Mad Ice first round, because while they can still do it, you're running a severe risk of just a low win potential of a first round Violinist and the high risk of running a first round Mad Eyes. So I don't really know what RD is going to do. I'd imagine they try to run Super Q, and then at that point you're running a good hunter, but he's going to be up against professional survivors. And on the flip side, you have a team that is it's a global survivor team. They're a good survivor team, but it is a global team, and they're going to be dealing with one of the scariest hunters in the professional circuit. And that's not even getting into the fact that if they use their secondary hunter Zom, and if he's actually they have some strategy with him, it's going to be a spooky matchup, I think, for RD. And I really can see GG just kind of being able to overcome any gimmicks that RD chooses to throw at them, survivor-wise. And then on the hunter side for GG, I can just see Pipijat and Zom just really being able to kind of dictate the flow of the match and keep it in their control. So, while I do acknowledge the fact that RD can have some really cool tricks up their sleeve, and this is a match that actually has a good amount of upset potential, I'm going to go with GG.
Yeah, this matchup I find it to be very interesting. Something important to note about GG is they have been one of the most consistent teams in all of IVL. However, from the second half of IVL fall season, they were very inconsistent. Their survivors struggled a lot. I believe they lost around 8 weeks straight, something a crazy number like that. And then they come to playoffs and then they finish in third place and they beat great teams. And that just shows the talent of GG, the perseverance of GG to lose 7, 8 games straight after being the number one team in IVL at the time. And then to come into playoffs and just act like it never even happened and to get third place and to give it your all. GG is that talented of a team. They're that consistent of a team. If I'm RD, the key for RD is their survivor play and their first round hunter. First round will dictate this. RD survivors are very talented. I've watched them, I've seen them. I truly believe their survivors are very talented, but they are not very stable. They're not very consistent. And some games they will look amazing, in other games they won't look as amazing. And the survivors have had a month, about 2 months to improve. And if their survivors have improved a lot since then, I can give them a chance, but that's something we have to see on COA day. As for RD, they have 3 different options to run that first round hunter. In my opinion, I see one option is hospital violinist. Another option is ever sleeping Mad Eyes. And the last option is Dream Witch. Doesn't matter the map. My thinking into this is that GG's map is hospital. I think GG, if they win the coin toss, will pick hospital for Bonbon. And I think at that moment, they will say, Crazy, you are hunting the first round. Because Violinist is strong on hospital, and that's one of his favorite maps. And then it will come down to maybe the best violinist in the world versus maybe the best Bonbon in the world. But Bonbon's just a stronger hunter, which will put them at a disadvantage. If RD wins the coin toss, they may opt to go ever sleeping in a riskier strategy because Bonbon is not as strong on ever sleeping. However, that is one of Mad Eye's best maps, and that is Dream's favorite Mad Eye's map. So they may opt to go for that, to go for win potential with Dream, while nullifying PP Shaw's Bonbon. But that's so risky, and it truly depends on, can Dream's Mad Eyes just pop off? Can you just four-man GG? And GG is going to go heavy counter Mad Eyes when they see it's him. That's the issue with Mad Eyes. You can go heavy counter, you can go doctor, you can go prisoner, you don't have to go mech, etc. And that will hurt him. So RD has a few different avenues to victory. And that's what I really like about this matchup. But if I have to pick, I have to pick GG because they are the more consistent and the more stable, professionally trained team. And I feel like out of 10 times, GG would win 8 of those times. It doesn't mean RD can't win, because RD could win 2 of those times, but GG is just more stable than RD. And that's why I agree with Mayhem. Fluff, and I'm picking GG to make it out of first round.
So next, it looks like on the other end of that, of this part of the bracket, you're gonna see GR versus AL.
Yes, GR is probably the most famous Identity 5 team in the world. GR has won COA 1, GR has won COA 2, and yeah, you guessed it, GR won COA 3. They have struggled since winning COA 3, actually. In the first IVL season, they did not make the playoffs. In the second IVL season, they improved a lot, and they did make the playoffs, and they finished 5th place. And then in COA, they only got taken to a third round once. They were the most consistent team you will ever see. And the thing about that is they only faced amateur teams in COA. They were not facing any professional teams like they do in IVL. GR has PPX. PPX is probably the most famous player in the world. Everyone knows who PPX is. He's a great, great hunter. They've also added a hunter. We don't know if they will play or not, but their name is Super Rich. They're a third round hunter. We'll see if they play. And GR survivors have had a lot of changes throughout COA. A lot of notable players are gone, but they have a lot of newcomers that are very good, such as Zai and Kong. Both of those players are really good. So GR, they have struggled, but end of the day, they are the 3-time COA champion, and they are formidable. AL, on the other side, is it's a very, very consistent, very good team. Ever since Japan has been able to go to COA, AL has made it. AL made it COA 2, AL made it COA 3, and AL has made it COA 4. So AL is one of the most well-known and one of the most consistent global teams. And they have great players on their end too, such as Vampy. And Vampy is played last COA. He did a very good job. And Vampy is going to come back again. He plays a lot of meta hunters. They have Yanasa, a Bonbon main, great hunter. And they also have a great survivor team. Also, similar to GR, they have some newcomers that are very good. So AL is a very formidable global team. They are as good of a global team as you will see, and they are facing as good of a China team as you will see. So Fluff.
This is gonna be tricky.
What do you think about GR versus AL?
Going into this, it's a very good matchup, and it's a bit of a romantic matchup because AL, it's a very, didn't they meet up COA 2? This was the first. They met up. They faced in COA 2, I think, in the quarterfinals of that.
Yeah.
And here you are back in COA 4. AL is going to be a very talented Japanese team. If you're AL, you got to, it's similar to RD. You got to work where you can. Something to notice about PBX is PBX has really been improving recently. His Bonbon has improved. His Dream Witch has improved. I actually forgot his third round. A bit of a brain.
That so they only got taken to one third round, correct? In that
Yes.
third round, the team banned his Bloody Queen. So I do not know for sure if that's his third round, but that's what obviously China thinks is his third round. It's Bloody Queen.
Yes. So PBX, a very consistent, dominant hunter, and AL is a very seasoned global survivor team. What's going to be hard for AL is the fact that when you're in Japan or you're in any global region, it's really hard to face China level competition. It's hard to find that if you even can at all. And so I wonder what's going to. I think what's going to be the hardest, thing for AL to overcome in this matchup is you're facing a three-time COA champion, and you're going to have to really find a way. They've been improving, and AL's improved too since the past COA, appearances. I'm going to have to go with GR. I think that GR is just on that professional plane. PPX is on that professional plane. I think AL is very close to it, but I don't know how seasoned AL is going to be versus teams of GR's caliber. That being said, using for like Yanasa's Bonbon is not a joke. It's he's incredible. Vanpy's incredible. So I think the hunting can actually manage to hold it. I think there's a chance of holding its own against GR, but at the same time, it's rough for me because you're looking at a professional team. And then on the flip side, AL survivors are fantastic, but then you're also looking at PPX. The multi-time COA champion and a reigning dominant, hunter, the most famous hunter in the world. And he's famous for a good reason, which is, he's very skilled. So I'm going to give it to GR. I think it's going to be a great matchup. And I think there's a chance of this being, a close third rounder. It could really go, this is a matchup that could go far, but I think that in the end, GR is coming out on top.
Yeah, when I look at this matchup, I share very similar thoughts to Fluff, to where GRAL, they're both very good teams. They are the pinnacle of each of their regions. AL, I have a personal interest into the Japan region's competitive scene. I really enjoy the meta there. I think they're some of the most skilled and talented players in the world. You have hunters that can simultaneously play Clown, Dream Witch, and Mad Eyes. I don't understand how that's possible, but hunters can do that there. I think Japan is a very strong region. And my thing for AL is we have not been able to see them in a long time because AL did not have to play in COA as they won the IVC for Japan earlier in 2020. So AL is kind of the last time I saw AL was in actually a smaller tournament called the Bashis, and they did decent. They lost, I think, pretty midway through. They didn't win the tournament, but that was a smaller tournament, so I'm not going to judge them off of that. But AL is a very good team. GR is very good, but in a way, it's a mirror match. And when you have PPX versus Vampy, both are very great hunters. PPX is a COA champion hunter. PPX is a professional hunter. His Dream Witch, he has specialized, and that has really helped PPX. It's so scary to say, oh yeah, I think PPX is getting better. But it's true. PPX has gotten dramatically better. His Dream Witch has gotten drastically better. His Bonbon, he's been the top one Bonbon in China now for seasons. His Bonbon has got a lot better, and his Bloody Queen at its prime was regarded as the best Bloody Queen in the world. So while Yanasa's Bonbon is very good, while Vampy's Dream Witch, Sculptor, Axeboy is very good, I have to favor PPX, while AL Survivors are the peak and the pinnacle of global survivors. I have to favor GR, Professional Survivors. And I don't think AO will do this, but what I would love for AO to do, what I would do in their spot, I would go off meta. It may sound like, suicide going off meta against GR, but I actually think to get an upper hand, instead of going a mirror match against one of the best teams in the world and being at a disadvantage, I would try to trick them. I would try to catch them off guard. I would go Vampy's Feaster, for example. Feaster has a lot of win potential. I know Vampy plays Feaster. He's always been a great Feaster. And what if you just, you know, came out with that third round for a 4-man? Or came out with that second round for a 4-man instead of going a hunter like Sculptor that they faced a million billion times and they know exactly how to dissect that? What if against Dreamwitch you try to go Doctor or you go Barmaid or maybe even Prospector? It may sound weird. Why are you going off meta? But PBX has faced meta Dreamwitch comps a million times. Why don't you do that when AL is very good at going meta and going off meta? They can switch on a dime, which is very impressive. So I just am really interested to see which playstyle AL will opt to choose. But I do have to agree with Fluff here. I'm giving GR the advantage and I'm picking GR to make it to the next round to beat AL.
All right, so you had a little bit down this side of the bracket, and I believe you're going to find yourself with the Tiamba versus the SST.
Yes. So SST is the representative for the Japan region. Tiamba is the representative for mainland China region. SST is actually, you may know them as LN, Lightning. They recently changed their name for COA. They are the winners of the last Japan IVC. They are known for their hunters such as Alf. Alf is one of the best hunters in Asia server. He's been recently playing in mainland China. He's had great success ranking there. Great Bonbon, great Dreamwitch, Axeboy, etc. So overall, he's a very talented hunter. You may also know them for their secondary hunter, Yui. Yui is a really famous YouTuber, I believe 200,000 plus subscribers. Uh, I don't expect him to play as much as Alf is the hunter they use, but that's he's along with the team. And then their survivors are very good. They're very talented survivors. Um, SST actually faced professional teams before, and their survivors held up to professional teams. So SST is one of the best global teams. Um, you'll see us say this a lot throughout this COA because global has gotten better. I do want to stress that. So when you look at all these global teams, any of them can be the best global team because they've all gotten better. But yes, overall SST is a very strong Japanese team that does run meta, a little bit off meta, more akin to a GG type China meta. So not the heavy first round Dreamwatch meta, more Bonbon, but still meta after all. Tiamba, they are a team that finished 10th place in IVL summer season. They finished 10th place in IVL fall season. So you're asking, how did they make COA? Because whatever happened between the fall season to COA regionals for China, they improved a lot. Tiamba went from being the worst professional team to being one of the best teams in the world. Their survivors have always been very strong. That they have only gotten stronger since then. However, their hunters were always their weak point. Their hunters were always very inconsistent, although they played meta. But recently, we have seen that their hunters have become a lot more consistent at playing meta, and that change for Tiamba is what propelled them from the last place team in China to being one of the best teams in China. And now you have a great matchup between SST and Tiamba. What are your thoughts, Fluff?
So I think the biggest thing you're going to see here, if you were told me, if I had to call this match, a month or two ago, I'd say it's going to probably be in SST's favor. But I saw Tiamba Survivors put up a dominant performance in the qualifiers, and they really fought their way, into making it. They made it. They're here in COA. And not only the survivors, they took down many top professional and amateur hunters in the process of making it here. They also the hunters for Tiamba itself improved a lot. QY and Taojing were two hunters that were brought in. Taojing actually had former experience COA III. He was the hunter for ALO, and that team lost first round to the Japan team MWS that year. So Taojing didn't really come in competitive with the greatest track record, and QY consistently throughout those seasons struggled tremendously and really failed to put up a good noticeable. He had a few good moments, and so going into this, a lot of expectations and from people who watch IBL were that Tiamba's going to be rough. But no, in the qualifiers, Taojing had moments where he just played fantastic, and QY has improved so much with his dream wedge that this is, going to be, I think, that's going to be that was the turning point for Tiamba going into this. Is now that they actually have a hunter department. The survivors are actually more polished, but on top of that, the hunting game for Tiamba is different. It's no longer the two-time last place team. Like you said, it's now a top China level hunting. On the flip side, SST is another, a fantastic global team coming out of Japan. It's a tough matchup for me to call. Like I said, SST has defeated global teams. China, professional, but they've defeated professional teams before, and they've defeated top global teams before. And we haven't seen a whole lot of them recently, as they got the auto qualify, they got the auto bid. This is going to be one of the closest first round matchups you're going to see in this entire tournament. I actually want to go ahead. This is very tough. I want to go with Tiamba because the hunting game out of Tiamba, it can do its job. Taojing is, really improved, as a second and third round player, and QY's dream wedge has been kind of on a roll recently. It's proven to be a force. And what you're coupling there is a survivor team that is just very fantastic. The Tiamba survivors played amazing in the qualifiers, and that, the question is, are they going to give Alf the breathing room? I think Alf is really going to have a hard time trying to take down this survivor team that's just faced, that is just so experienced against other top professional teams. It's, can Alf really, put a harder dent in than these professional, hunters? And on the other side, like I said, the survivor game out of SST is very good, but the question is going to remain, does it have the experience against professional level hunters to, put up, to really put that dent in? I'm going to go with Tiamba. I think that the improvements that Tiamba has made really kind of etch them in as a very high up team. And as good as SST is, I think SST, this is a battleground match. This is one, if you're looking for an upset, you have to keep your eye on this match. But I do think that Tiamba, now they've really reached that professional standard, and not just the professional standard, but they're good by the professional standard, and kind of took everyone. I think Tiamba's going to have the momentum to, take out SST.
Yeah, I also agree here. I will be picking Tiamba. SST is one of my favorite teams in the world. Uh, the emotion they showed. If you watch the Japan Fall IVC, when SST won, you could just see Alf and some of the other survivors on SST crying tears of joy after their victory. The finals went to 5 rounds. It was a very hard fought 5 rounds. It was just emotional. The perseverance they showed. SST is an amazing team. They have beaten professional China teams, which I believe no other global team can even say that. So SST is as good as you're going to get, and one of my favorite teams personally. The issue in this matchup is that Alf is the strong suit of SST. He is their best. He's the best part of SST. However, Tiamba survivors are so good. They're so consistent. Not just IVL standard, they are one of the best survivor teams in the league. They are that good. And I just don't think they will slip up against Alf. And I think that Alf will be able to hold his own as in tying matches, but I don't think Alf will be able to break through and beat those survivors. And the issue with that is SST survivors are not very consistent. That the survivors are strong and talented, but they aren't always consistent. And when they're facing such consistent hunters that Tiamba has, Taojing and QY have become very consistent top level hunters. I don't think SST survivors will be able to win against those hunters enough to compensate for the task that Alf has. Alf has a very hard task up against them facing Tiamba survivors, and I have full confidence he will do his best and he will fight through. But I don't think SST survivors will be able to compensate enough for that, and that's why I also have to pick Tiamba in this matchup to get through and make it to the next round.
Yeah, so that's going to conclude the left side of the bracket.
No, 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 it doesn't conclude it. We have one more.
Oh, I am actually so dumb. Here we go. I cannot count. All right, now you get to the bottom half, which is going to be, for a lot of our English-speaking viewers, this is, a lot of NAEU audience, this is the match. It is X-Rock versus D4U. Get into this one.
Okay, so X-Rock. X-Rock is one of the oldest China teams, actually. Some of their players, their hunter, Afu, was the hunter for ITC. ITC was won the original cross-platform tournament in China, one of the first big tournaments that was ever held. ITC finished semifinals of COA II. ITC is just one of the most famous, best teams in IDV history. And Afu was their hunter. Some of their survivors come from ITC, such as YJJ. He was the perfumer main back then. He's always been a great player. And these players know each other. They have very good chemistry. And X-Rock is the team that you don't. They, on paper, they may never look the best. But when they are down and when they need a miracle, that's what X-Rock gives you. Time and time again, X-Rock will always give a miracle because their hunters and the survivors always keep fighting. They always show great perseverance. And they are a professional China IVL team, and they are very strong. Their strong suit is their hunter. Afu is the strong suit of their team, but the survivors have gotten a lot more consistent as of late, so that will help them. B4U is the representative for the NAEU region. If you do not know, me and Fluff reside in the NAEU region, and that's where we play at. In the NAEU region, to the rest of the world, is the mystery region. We're the secret region because we're a very small community with a lot less teams. We get a lot less visibility because we're so much further away from everyone else in Asia. So a lot of people don't know really what to think about NAEU. I face a lot of these players personally, as I'm a top player on the server, and B4U is a very strong team. These players, I think most of them, if not all of them, um, I really do think all of them have been playing from basically season one, and I've seen them since season one. So B4U is a very experienced team. Some of these players have COA experience who made it to COA 2. They've won NAEU summer tournaments, they've won COAs, they've won a lot. So B4U is a very experienced and good team. And similar to X-Rock, their strong suit is hunting. B4U has always been known for their hunter sprinter duty, those two hunters throughout the years. But B4U has always been known for their hunting, first. And their survivors have had struggles. Same with X-Rock, but recently their survivors have also become more consistent. Um, so what are your thoughts on this matchup?
This is a matchup that, first off, again, I'm disregarding ping, especially for this one. It's going to be a little tricky. So I know there's a good chance. I just want to say up front, I know there's a chance that you guys may be wondering how's that going to factor in. I'm not factoring in this match. What I'm going to get objective to here is I think the really key player of this entire matchup is Afu. Afu is what you're going to have to look at for this entire match because, again, these are very good survivors on both ends, and they're going to have very good hunters on both ends. In a way, it's kind of not really a mirror match, but it's kind of, there's similar of, design in a sense to some of these teams. What I'm going to see is Spencer, a very talented hunter. Again, he's, monstrous, hardworking. Spencer's going to be a huge he's going to be a huge determining factor into how B4U really plays throughout this matchup. Because Afu himself is probably the best sculptor in the world. I haven't seen anything like him. It's insane. Afu's hunting has just been so dominant in the qualifiers, especially. He was able to clutch out and really just bring, Afu pretty much clutched out and brought them in to COA. He was taking, with his first round sculptor, he's taking down numerous top teams. So again, I think if you're B4U in this matchup, you have, it's similar to what B4U did in the COA qualifiers. I think they're going to have an interesting map strategy going into this because Afu loves Eversleeping. Eversleeping is Afu's map. X-Rock is going to take Eversleeping at some point, and especially if it's first round, that is key for Afu. Giving Afu first round Eversleeping Sculptor is going to be, I think that'll be, kind of what X-Rock is going to really bank on to just hit hard first round. Spencer himself is a very capable hunter, but again, you're pitting him up against a professional level, team. X-Rock Survivors has improved immensely, and while I've seen, like you said, B4U's improved a lot. They're out front, and they've gotten a lot more consistent. I'm just a little bit worried about how they'll be able to handle Afu because he's coming hot out of the qualifiers. And, Spencer, again, X-Rock Survivors have had struggles, but they themselves have also improved. And I think it's going to be really hard for Spencer to, impact on these professional survivors as Afu is going to be able to, can potentially make on global survivors. Again, I think B4U is going to have, they can get really funky with some strategies to try to outzone Afu. But then let's not also forget, Afu, his second round, he'll second round Dream Witch, and that itself is very scary. It's kind of a tough call, but I really feel like X-Rock is just going to come out as just the more professional team, and I think Afu's hunting is really just going to be kind of, what swings this match into X-Rock's favor. I will say this, if Spencer can really manage to, just keep eating away at X-Rock Survivors, and if B4U can have a large, good first round performance against X-Rock, I think there's a chance, I think that's going to really, what B4U needs. but I'm going to go with X-Rock.
Yeah. So in this matchup, the Hunter wise, it's a mirror match. Both are Sculptor mains. Sculptor and Dream, which means first and second round, that's interchangeable. We've seen Sprinter play first round Dream. We've seen Sprinter play first round Sculptor. Same goes for Afu. And both are third round Bloody Queen mains for ties. So it's a mirror match. My concern for B4U here is sprinters Sprinter is not very experienced in those hunters. Blade Queen's been playing for a long time. However, Dreamwitch and Sculptor, he has not. Afu has been able to face professional China teams along with China rank constantly with Dreamwitch and Sculptor to perfect them. Sprinter only faced one team in NAEU with his Sculptor, and he faced two teams with his Dreamwitch two times, in COA. But he doesn't even play those characters in rank. He doesn't get much practice outside of B4U. And that is my concern. How has that development gone for his hunting when you limit it to only facing your own players? When you limit it to facing players that you know their playstyle of, that helps you. While Afu is just his sculptor's a monster. It's not the sculptor is not comparable. The Dream Witch is a lot more similar. But B4U's chance really will come down to the coin toss. I think B4U's best chance is getting the coin toss and going a Leo's memory strat again. Um, B4U seems to have two main strats: a Orange Factory Sculptor strat and a Leo's Memory Dreamwitch strat. The Sculptor strat just does not make sense. Afu is just the best sculptor in the world. That does not make sense to go. That is not a great strat. I think they know that. Their best chance is to go a Leo's Memory strat and to nullify the hunting. Yes, it may make Sprinter's hunting a little bit worse, but it's making Afu's hunting worse. And it's coming down to survivors, which the survivors is a lot more comparable in a sense than the hunting. And if they do that, Leo's memory is hard for Dreamwitch and it's hard for Sculptor. So you can't just say, oh, Afu go Sculptor. I don't even know if Afu would play Sculptor. I don't know if he'd just go Dreamwitch. I think he probably would, which is what you'd rather see. So if it is the ever sleeping Sculptor because X-Rock gets the map, B4U of course still has a chance. They will have to go ever sleeping Dreamwitch. Sprinter's Dreamwitch will have to pop off. But their chances of winning will get very slim when you let X-Rock do what they want to do. Um, but if B4U can go a counter to them, kind of what I spoke about Japan earlier, do B4U special Leo's memory strat, maybe that's something X-Rock isn't really expecting. I'm sure they've done their research. I'm sure they have practiced Leo's, but B4U has definitely practiced it more than them. So that's their best chance. But I have to go with X-Rock here from the main point of it's a mirror match, and X-Rock is just a professional China team that I have seen with my eyes perform so well. And B4U is also a very talented, good team coming from NAE region, a very strong region. However, they have not had the experience. The survivors have not been able to face hunters regularly that are as good as Afu. They have not been able to train with hunters besides their two hunters. They have not trained with, other hunters in this region to expand that knowledge. And Sprinter is the same way. He has trained against B4U survivors, and that's great, but he has not gotten the experience that Afu has. And for that reason, I'm going with X-Rock here. However, in all of these mirror type matchups, you always have to give the other team a chance. Because if they come out one day and in a mirror match, they're just better, then they win. So you always have to still give B4U a chance, because if they come out and Sprinter's Dream Wish just performs better than Afu that day, that may be all they need to win. Um, and one more side note is Afu does have a third round Axe Boy that we didn't talk about. And Afu's third round Axe Boy is known for miracles. His Axe Boy only comes out when X-Rock needs a 4-man, when they need a miracle. And I'm not gonna lie, Afu probably gets the miracle around 80% of the time. And there's, inside jokes between China region, all these regions, and one of the jokes that kind of go around in B4U has played into as well in AEU is, if you want to beat B4U, go Axe Boy. It's not serious. B4U is a great team, but it's a funny thing that goes around about their struggles with Axe Boy, facing Axe Boys. So I really want to see if through these months they have practiced Axe Boy and improved on that, because Afu, if he needs a 4-man third round, you do have to expect his Axe Boy. And his Axe Boy gets 4-mans against professional teams. So that is also a trump card that I just feel like we didn't talk about, that trump card. But I am also going to be going with X-Rock in this matchup.
So now, I don't mess it up, now we transition over to the second half of the bracket. So here you're going to see, actually, I believe this is the only instance in the entire tournament in which two China teams face in the first round. You're going to see Weibo, who finished second in the fall season of the IVL playoffs, and you're going to see MRC, who did, I forget their MRC is another professional team out of China. I'll let you take it away.
So we have Weibo versus MRC. These are two older teams. They've been around for a very long time. Weibo is Ace from last year. Exact same team. Survivors and Hunters. They're just renamed to Weibo. But if you remember Ace from last year, they were a very, very strong team. That's Weibo. The biggest difference from last year to this year is that Say basically played every round, and D was a specialist third round. This year, D basically plays every round, and Say is a specialist third round. So that's the biggest difference for Weibo. Weibo is known to have some of the best survivors in the world. Their survivors, 4-man ZQ Ken's Bonbon first round. Ken's Bonbon did not lose a match in the entire season of IVL, maybe in the entire 2 seasons of IVL.
Yeah, both. No, that was his first loss in all of IVL, was a 4-man by Weibo Survivors.
So in all of IVL history, throughout the 2 seasons, you play 10 weeks along with playoffs. Ken's Bonbon never lost a match until the finals of IVL fall playoffs, where Weibo 4-manned his Bonbon. That just goes to show you how formidable Weibo survivors are, and their hunting is very consistent. D is just a very consistent hunter. He's a very good Bonbon. He's a very good sculptor, and he does have a third round Dream Witch to be worried about. MRC is a team you may recognize from the last 2 COAs, but their survivors are a lot different. It's a completely new survivor lineup, but they do have the same hunter in XC. XC is regarded as really one of the best Dream Witches in the entire world. At one point, he was regarded as the best Dream Witch in the world. XC as of late has struggled. He struggled, but you can still see his skill level is still there. His Dream Witch is very strong, and he still has a spider. He still has Bonbon, Axe Boy, etc. So he can play a lot of hunters. And MRC survivors are most known for Shouty. Shouty is one of the most famous survivor players in the world, and Shouty is an amazing, amazing player. And MRC survivors, which have struggled before, have also seemed to become a lot more consistent as of late. So this is just a very good competitive matchup between 2 professional teams, and Fluff kind of was pointing to earlier, Weibo finished second in the IVL fall playoffs. MRC did not make the playoffs, but they did finish eighth in last season of IVL, and in the summer season they finished top six, top number six, I believe. So, what are your thoughts on the matchup between Weibo versus MRC?
I think the first thing you really have to look at is what stands out to me most is XC's decline. He's a very talented hunter, but as you've seen, especially in the seconds in IVL and even in the even in the qualifiers a bit, MRC I believe they didn't have to go to the losers bracket. They qualified straight up, but XC is a hunter who's where he specializes, he's strong. Where he doesn't specialize, he struggles. And yet he's a one-man show hunting for MRC. And that's what makes me nervous about them most compared to D. D's kind of taken the role of lead hunter over Seisei for Weibo for a while. Again, I don't know if they're going to switch, if they're going to swap that out or how they're going to change it. But those survivors on Weibo, I believe that's what's going to really hurt XC, is why I said XC is a specialist. Most of what he specializes in comes down to tie hunters like Spider. He's an amazing spider, one of the best spiders I've ever seen, if not the best spider I've ever seen. But Spider doesn't bring a lot of win potential to the plate. Whereas D's one of the most consistent hunters, and you pack him in with one of the most powerful and consistent survivor teams. Minus little slip up to FNO's Feaster first round. This is, again, a close match that can really go either way. This is a very upset-type match. I want to go with Weibo simply on the fact that I believe that D can just deliver. D is a less exploitable hunter than XC is. And as a whole, that's where I think Weibo kind of shines, is they're less exploitable as MRC is. Like you said, MRC survivors have improved, but they also do really struggle a lot more historically than Weibo's do. And then XC's hunting, as of recent, has struggled a lot more than D's hunting has. So I think that, again, these are two professional teams, both of which, contain very capable players. Again, they're professional. But I'm going to go ahead and give Weibo just that, that edge on this one.
Yeah, this matchup, it's probably going to be the most fun matchup out of the first round. It's probably going to be the most competitive first round matchup. These teams are going to go at each other's throats. The X factor here is XC, MRC XC's Dream Witch, first round. They are going to go Orange Factory. If MRC gets the map and goes Orange Factory, can XC 4-man Weibo survivors? If he does that, MRC will win. Mark my words, if XC has one of the best Dream Witch matches of his life and he 4-mans Weibo survivors, MRC is in such a strong advantage because Weibo D only mainly specializes in tie hunters. Weibo is not a great team playing from behind. They are a great team playing with the lead. So if MRC can take that early lead with XC's Dream Witch, which is just what you have to depend on at this point, then MRC can pull it off and win. However, if Weibo is probably one of the best Dream Witch teams in the world. Their survivors faced XC twice, and I think they beat him both times in IVL. Beat him. And I know for sure they beat him at least one of the times, and the other time they either tied or beat him then too. So, while it looks great to say, oh, XC can 4-man's Dream Witch, Weibo has Dream Witch down to a T. They're the type of team that will take a second round Dream Witch, and they still have full confidence they will beat it. That's why it's going to be such a good matchup between those two. As for Weibo's hunting versus MRC survivors, I predict it to be mainly ties. Mainly ties. D is a very good hunter, and MRC survivors have improved a lot, so I expect it to be ties across the board So it really comes down to, can XC break through, or is Weibo Survivors too good? And after first round, XC just really struggles. Um, he struggled with Bonbon, he struggled with Anne, etc. He struggles after first round finding ways to win. And that's why you have to put full faith into the first round Dream Witch, because once you get past first round, Weibo has the advantage. So this is a type of matchup you will know who is going to win after the first or second match, the first or second game, and then you will be able to determine who wins. Because both teams are very good at doing what they, specialize in, but one of them is going to have to, be defeated. And while it comes down to XC's Dream Wish, I just have a little bit more faith in Weibo Survivors to get it done. So that's why I will be picking Weibo as well, because I just have faith that Weibo Survivors are at worst going to tie to his Dream Wish, or at best beat his Dream Wish. And in my opinion, if any of those outcomes come, then MR's then Weibo will be making it to the next round.
So this takes us into a matchup that is probably the most polar matchup in COA history. And there's no disrespect intended, but you're looking at ZQ versus SMT. SMT, you can actually, yes, you take it, sorry.
So this is a very, very polar matchup. ZQ is the best team in the world. At this current moment, ZQ is the best team in the world. They have won both IVO seasons. And they're in the regular season, they finished first place in both, and in the playoffs, they won both. ZQ Survivors are known as the best survivors in the world, and their hunting is known as some of the best hunting in the world, with Kin, a hunter that's recently gotten famous and popular, but is very strong. He's known as the best bonbon in the world. He's a very good hunter. And then a hunter you may remember from last COA, Yang, who's most famous for his photographer. He was the hunter for 5HS last COA. He did very well. For him to be your secondary hunter, that says a lot about how good ZQ is. And you have SMT, reigning from the Korea region. SMT is also a very talented team. Watching them in COA, they didn't even use forward. They used Wildling, and they never played forward, which is very interesting. But they beat very strong Korean teams. So SMT is a very formidable team and a very good global team. Um, the reason why it's so polar is because they are a global team. That Korea region is very talented, but the meta is not as similar to what they're going to be facing from mainland China. The meta is not as similar to it as other regions, which may pose an issue when you're facing a meta best team in the world while you're playing more off meta, where you don't even use, a consensus S tier character like forward. You're going to see issues. But SMT is very talented. Their hunting is very talented. And then ZQ is the best team in the world. So this will probably be a quicker analysis, but what are your thoughts, Fluff?
ZQ. I really, it's as much as I want to see the underdog win, I just don't care SMT possibly gets the upper hand. You're facing the best team in the world. You're facing the two-time IBL champion. And when you're not, and again, Korea, I don't know what they'll practice. I just don't, it's going to be very hard for, I think for Metal and SMT's hunters to really just, if they have multiple, just to, push through and find a weak spot in which ZQ folds, and simultaneously, their hunter taking down who's proven to oftentimes be, one of the best survivor teams in the world, if not the best. So coupling it together, I just don't see where SMT actually makes a difference. Maybe if the off meta possibly catches ZQ off guard at any point, that could be, something that really could, alter it a little bit. But end of the day, I just see Korea putting up a great fight, but just kind of getting overwhelmed naturally by a very, very, very good ZQ team.
Yeah, ZQ will win. But one kind of comparison I want to draw and statement I want to say is if SMT beats ZQ, this will be the biggest upset in Identity 5 history, in Identity 5 competitive history. It will be the single biggest upset. And do you want to know what would have also been the biggest upset in Identity 5 competitive history? Just uh, going to 3 rounds and ended up going to a tiebreaker round where this team lost only by time. It was in COA II, Team Korea versus ITC. Team Korea was given no chance to stand up against ITC because at the time ITC won the last big tournament in China. ITC was known as the best team in China. ZQ is known as the best team in China. And Team Korea came from Korea region. SMT came from Korea region. And TK ended up putting up probably the best fight ever. Did they win? No. It went 3 rounds. It went a tiebreaker round, and they lost because of time. They did not lose because of points. But Team Korea will always be COA legends. When I think about COA, the first match, one of the first matches, Yang's photo match is pretty up there. But one of the first series that ever comes to my mind when I think about COA will always be Team Korea versus ITC because that's the single best COA series that I have ever watched in my life. And I'm not saying that will be this. ZQ is great. ZQ is amazing. And I do think ZQ will just overpower SMT. But I just do think that's a pretty cool parallel to draw. And, 2 years later. Now, if that does happen, that's going to be an amazing, series, an amazing matchup. I hope it happens. I hope it happens for SMT. But I do have to also go with ZQ pretty overwhelmingly beating SMT.
So moving on from that, you're gonna move down the knob, to similar to on the other similar to Weibo versus MRC. The only matchup in this tournament where two non-mainland Chinese teams face first round. You're gonna see GD versus OSM.
Okay, so OSM versus GD. OSM is one of the two representatives from the Southeast Asia region. They won the Southeast Asia IVC, so they got an automatic bid to COA without having to play, in COA regionals. GD was one of the 3 Japanese representatives, and they did have to play in COA regionals, and they overwhelmingly won Japan COA regionals. In a best of 5 finals, they won 3-0. That GD is very strong. OSM is best known for their hunter, Last Human. Last Human gave a very, very impressive performance the last time we saw him in IVC. He was just his first round Bonbon to his second round Dream Witch to him being able to play hunters such as Axe Boy, I believe Violinist. He just was a very formidable hunter. And OSM survivors were consistent and they did their job and they aided Last Human's strong hunting. So OSM's strength is definitely hunting. GD has Nonino. Nonino is one of the best global hunters in the world. You can compare him to China professional hunters. There's no doubt in my mind that if he went to China and wanted to play for an IVO team wouldn't sign him on the spot. He is a very strong hunter that plays heavy meta. And he did a very good job in COA regionals. GD survivors are also very good and very consistent, and they're solid, talented players that talented Japanese players that have been around for a long time now. So this is an interesting matchup because these are two of the best global teams for sure facing off.
So getting into this one, it's my again eye on the ball for me is No Nino. No Nino has put in the work. He's improved, and like you said, GT dominated the COA qualifiers for Japan. OSM, I'm a little more iffy because I haven't gotten to see them since they qualified for the IV, since they qualified via IVC to get here. Last Human is a fantastic hunter. However, my biggest concern is how will OSM survivors handle No Nino? I think that's gonna be really the dictating outcome here. Is just the hunter for GD versus the survivors of OSM. I believe that Last Human can make a great impact on these GD survivors, but again, they're actually, I believe, one of the more stable teams coming out of Global, and that's something that I think Global really they've gotten better at, especially. But you're going to kind of see kind of the main Achilles heel of Global is the stability of survivors. I think, and then I think that when No Nino just being such a consistent hunter, and then I do believe OSM survivors kind of struggling a bit, on the consistency and stability factor. I think that if GD's really is just going to dig into that, that's what's going to really hurt them. On the flip side, Last Human, very good hunter, and I think it's just matched up against such stable survivors. I don't know how it really is going to turn out, but I think just on the regard of No Nino just being such an incredible hunter, I think that'll be kind of the punch that's going to get GD into the second round.
Yeah, OSM versus GD. These are two very good global teams. However, GD, they're both hunter. The strength of both their teams is hunting, and while I'm not going to even give a full opinion on who's hunter, I think it's better between Last Human and Onino. So they both are very strong and probably the strongest in each of their respective regions. But when I look at the two survivor teams, I do have to give the edge to GD survivors for being more stable and more consistent, which is something that China has really gotten good at, getting consistent and stable survivors that Global has seemed to struggle with a lot, while GD hasn't. So, for that reason, I think can OSM survivors really handle No Nino's Hunter? Maybe for a round. For 3 rounds, I'm not so sure. For OSM, there's for GD survivors, can they handle Last Human? I actually think the answer is yes. Not that they will beat him, but they aren't. I don't see them losing to his bonbon. I see them being able to tie his dream witch. I see them being able to tie his hunters consistently because of how stable they are. While I can see OSM survivors slipping up against a very, very good hunter in Onino, and it's a tough matchup for them. But for those reasons, I also have to pick GD to make it out and to advance to the next round.
So now we get into the final match of the first round. We got Dow 5 versus BL. What are your thoughts on that? What is your kind of
introduction? So yes. Dow 5 versus BL. Dow 5 is a professional China IVL team. BL is one of the two representatives for the Southeast Asia region. Dow 5 is known for their hunter DX, Dong Xuan. DX was the hunter for AT last COA. He was very strong then. He's a top rank hunter. And he won the MVP for the IVL fall season. DX is known. As of right now, statistically, DX is the best hunter in the world. And he's the best hunter in IVL. The issue for Dow 5 has always been their survivors, however. Their survivors have been known as, some of the most inconsistent in all of China. And that has always really hurt Dow 5. So Dow 5 finished fifth in the last IVL Fall Finals. They finished second in IVL Summer Finals. But especially in the fall season, you saw the downfall of Dow 5 being their very inconsistent survivor play. However, in COA, they seem to have really improved since then and have become a lot more consistent. And that's the biggest factor. They don't throw games that they shouldn't. They are able to tie a lot more consistently. And when you have a hunter like DX, that is really all you need to do to win. So Dow 5 is a very, very strong team coming in to COA. BL is a very strong Southeast Asia team. They were the winners of the COA regionals there, and that was a very hard fought tournament. And BL Survivors played well. BL Survivors were able to clutch out games in the finals, which really impressed me. Under a lot of pressure, BL Survivors, clutched out games, especially the Moonlit game. They just played really well overall, and they improved throughout the tournament. And BL's hunting is also very strong. Their first round is a Dreamwish main called Zenowo. Zenowo, he was destroying teams in Southeast Asia and Korea. He was just going through them. His Dreamwish was 4-manning a lot, 3-manning a lot. He does run a off meta type strategy with a Seer ban and going blink. That's not something you really see for Dreamwitch. You see more rescue banning and patroller to give you more win potential, while Seer ban with blink is a lot, more tie potential. But it worked very well for him in Koa. So he's obviously mastered that strategy. So he's a very good Dreamwitch. And then they put in their secondary hunter Ares, and Ares is a very good hunter as well. He really specializes at those chase type hunters like Violinist and Bonbon and Bloody Queen. And he's very strong at those hunters as well. So BL is a really good team, a really good global team that is facing a really good China team. So what are your thoughts?
My thought right now is DX. DX is a monster, and because you make a good point. One thing you got to realize is, now that Dow 5 survivors have proved, it actually is going to add for the big factor for, I think, Dow 5 here is, like you said, unless they've really changed that much, all those hunters you've named that, Zenowo and Ares, are very good at, they're very talented, that's more of a tie type or, strat. And that's now something that, if you were, because, with Zenowo's Dreamwitch, if you're going Seer Ban Blink Dreamwitch, you're generally going to be trying to farm the mech there and go for the tie. That's good. If as long as Dow 5 doesn't throw to that, and these other hunters, if they just kind of remain stable, then all they, that's what they have to do. DX is going to basically be a heavy hitter, because as good as BL Survivors performed, professional teams crack under DX. Like you said, he's the statistically best hunter in the world. He is a top ranked hunter. I think what you're going to really see here is the hunting game from BL, actually holding its own against Dow 5 survivors as good as they are. I think that's what's, is going to keep BL really in this. But on the flip side, I'm not exactly as sure as, how well BL, coming from, Southeast Asia, I don't know how much practice they've gotten against hunters like DX, because, again, DX is extremely versatile. He pulls, he has a lot of things. Well, his strategy is pretty set right now as to what he's going to do. He's going to probably, just run Dreamwitch and Sculptor. Although, he does have a nasty Wu Chang in the pocket, and then occasionally has some other weird hunters he might pull out. I think that if DX is just going to really pummel and put a lot of pressure on BL, and I'm not exactly so sure if BL can, the survivors can actually, hold up and tie him consistently or beat him. And while on the flip side, I see Aries and Zenowo playing very well, but struggling to actually get wins against L5. If the survivors for BL can prove that they can really pressure, put a lot of pressure on DX, and as long as BL's hunters can actually crack around, and actually exploit, bring back that weakness that Dow 5 survivors struggled with, I think that's how BL wins. Unfortunately for BL, I think that DX is just going to be so much of a threat. And the fact that these Dow 5 survivors have improved, it's going to be harder for BL's hunters to get, consistent large breaks and victories over Dow 5 serves. Not that it can't be done, but I'm going to go ahead and give this match to Dow 5.
Yeah, I'm going with Dow 5 in this matchup as well. I know Fluff asked, oh, you have to wonder, coming from Southeast Asia, is BL able to get experience against hunters like DX? And the answer is no. It doesn't matter if they came from mainland China. It doesn't matter if they came from Mars. The answer is no. There is only one DX in this world, in this galaxy, and unless you are facing him, you have not experienced DX. So that is the biggest X factor. I expect DX is a type of hunter that will come in and will form in, IVL teams two of the 3 rounds. So when I say, oh yeah, I expect DX to form in BL every round, it's not a shot at BL's players or their survivors because he does this against professional teams. It is showing how good and how much of a monster DX's hunting is. And that's something that's going to come in, that's going to form in. And if you're Zenowo, you're going to have to match that Dream Witch. And DX is the best Dream Witch in the world, and you have to match it. You have to match his second round and his third round sculptor, etc. And that's where I see BL struggling to match. No team in the world can really match DX's hunting. You have to really basically counter it by having such strong survivor teams that they're able to, subset DX's hunting and put you on a level playing field. But for BL, their survivors better be that good, or else their chances of winning this matchup are pretty low. So for that reason, I'm also going with Dow 5 because DX is amazing and their survivors have actually gotten really consistent. And I don't see them throwing mini matches. I see them being able to tie BL's hunters consistently. While DX is just a guy that can win.
So now, without further ado, I believe that does conclude the first round. So hopefully that kind of gives you a sense for, everything, and, all these teams. So we won't have to do too much introductions. I also want to say that all these teams here are very talented. Every team here has worked very hard. So if we didn't pick a team to win, that's not a jab at them. That's just kind of how our prediction is, just the nature of competitive. 2 teams come in, 1 team is to come out. So, again, Global's looking very strong, and China's looking very strong. But I believe going into here, only one global team is in the second round, according to our predictions. But let's start up at the top, with GG versus GR.
So, GG versus GR, these are 2 of the best teams in the world. This is probably the hardest. Okay, it's not the hardest. There's many hard second round matchups, to be fair. But this is definitely a hard second round matchup.
These second rounds are close. This is going to
because I was going to say the hardest, and then I just looked around. I'm like, wait, Weibo versus ZQ? Wait, no, never mind. Tiamba versus X-Shock. GG versus Defy. These are going to be a hard matchup. So, GG versus GR. This is going to be what? It's going to divide a lot of people. Do I go with GG? Do I go with GR? And me personally, I have to ride the GR train because GG is a very strong team, but I feel that GR is just a tad bit more consistent than GG. And PPX, his Dream Wish, is going to be able to give GR that four-man potential that GG does not have. If GG tries to go a counter Bonbon hospital strat, guess what? PPX is the number one Bonbon in China. So we can do that, and we can both tie Bonbons first round. You aren't. PPX is saying you aren't gonna, take an advantage on me. If I want to go Dream Witch and go for the win, I'll do that. But and I'm now able to match you Bonbon for Bonbon and tie it out first round, and then play for second or third round. So GR serves have also gotten a lot better. This is just a really tough matchup, but yeah, me personally, I am going for GR here. Um, so what are your thoughts, Fluff?
Dude, I know it's going to be seen as an upset. I want to go with the GR train too. A lot of people will be like, why? But I really do believe that this team has just improved so much. And this is also a team that just clutches out. Like, this is a team that performs better in these high stakes. And I actually think, like you said, PPX can now match GG's Hunter department. And these survivors can now match GG survivors. These are two very good teams. This is very even, and I do believe that whoever wins this matchup goes to the finals. Oh, this is hard. I want to go with GR. I think really any team can win here. This is so. All these matchups are very close. I'm going to go with GR. I believe that PPX is just going to be able to play a little bit sharper, and I believe these survivors are actually able to handle GG's Hunters. I do believe, though, that if GG gets a jump on them in the first round, I think GR is pretty much dashed. That is one thing I will say.
I'm expecting the GR effect in COA in these big situations. GR just plays better. And that's what I'm expecting here. GR to play even better than you've seen him. And that's what scares me about GR, which is why I'm going on the GR train right here. Let's move GR to the next round. And get into the next matchup, Tiamba versus Xrock. These are also two very similar teams. So, I'll start off with my thoughts and then we'll go to you. Tiamba versus Xrock. They are two teams that have been towards the bottom of IVL throughout the seasons, but both of those two teams have been probably some of the teams that have improved the most throughout IVL. They actually faced off in COA Regionals, and Tiamba beat Xrock. Just a lot of people are going to go for Xrock here, just like a lot of people are going to go for GG against GR. But me personally, I have to go for Tiamba because I feel they are overall more consistent. Their survivor play is a lot more consistent than Xrock. I think their hunting is even more consistent than Xrock. I think that's why Tiamba beat Xrock in the first matchup, and I see the same thing happening here in the rematch in COA. What are your thoughts?
I think this is a matchup that, again, it's going to come down. It's going to come down to this first round. A lot of, especially, X-Rock is the purple miracle. It's not, but at the same time, and on the flip side of that, Tiamba is a team that, as good as they performed, they still have the stigma of just being a, struggling IVL team. But since I really do believe they've evolved past that, I can see QI. I believe QI is going to do his job. It's going to really come down to Afu. Because last time you've seen Tiamba serves really just outzone Afu. They really hit Afu hard last time they faced. They were able to handle his Sculptor. I believe they handled his Dream Witch. I want to give it to Tiamba, just repeating it again. I think I'll say this. I think that if Tiamba is on, I think if Tiamba's playing at their peak, Tiamba will do this. I think Tiamba will beat X-Rock. If Tiamba comes in sluggish and if they're lacking, especially on the Survivor front, I think if they get one loss to Afu, I don't see them being able to come back.
Yeah, X-Rock, they're gonna. I think if they're the Purple Miracle, if they can pull off a miracle, which I know they can, they'll beat X-Rock. But the last time they faced X-Rock, Afu went Axe Board third round. That same Axe Board that gets the miracles, and they faced Tiamba, and it just looked like something, just a normal Axe Board. I believe he lost, and he just got Cypher rushed and kited and rescued off of, and there was no miracle anywhere close to that. His sculptor even got outzoned. His Dream Witch, they just played him so well, and they told the Service told their hunters, we will beat Afu one of these rounds. You guys just have to tie every other round. You guys just have to tie every round against X-Rock survivors, and X-Rock survivors don't have that X factor to give them wins. They are just good enough to tie a lot of these hunters, which is why on paper Tiama really is just a better pick. But I will not be surprised if X-Rock pulls off a miracle and wins. I would not be surprised at all if they were to pull off a miracle and beat X Rock here. I mean, beat Tiamba here. So now let's move on to the next matchup: ZQ versus Weibo. What are your thoughts on
it? This is the COA champion. This is the IVL champion versus the IVL runner-up. This is going to be a heated rematch. This is a rematch. Again, we haven't even really seen much of ZQ. I just think that honestly, it's going to be hard for Weibo to get. I think it's going to be a similar lineup to how the IVL championships went. I think that D will do his job for the most part, especially first round with his bonbon. But once it ventures into the later rounds, D is going to get hit. Because D really does struggle in those later rounds because he plays those TIE Hunters, but even then, ZQ proves they can beat his TIE Hunters. So pretty good consistency. And on the other side, I don't see Ken letting that same mistake happen. I don't see ZQ. I don't see Weibo really being able to. I just don't see Weibo just getting a huge jump on ZQ like they did last time. And I think as much as as these are extremely talented teams, I really think this is a point where whatever team wins this matchup can really win COA. But I'm going to give it to ZQ. I think that ZQ especially is just such a dominant, talented team. And as good as Weibo is, ZQ actually brings a bit more win potential where Weibo doesn't. And I don't see Weibo just getting another huge jump like they did in the finals. And I see them still, kind of being able to rematch the finals. I see them just really kind of faltering out as the rounds go on. What are your thoughts?
It sucks to say it, but Weibo is ZQ, but just a bit worse. I think this has always kind of been it, and I love Weibo. Weibo's an amazing team. Amazing team. The survivors are so impressive. But when you really look at them, Weibo serves are very good. They're amazing against Dreamwitch. They're very consistent. But who else do we say that about? ZQ. But ZQ is just a little bit better against Dreamwitch. They're just a little bit better against all their hunters. They're able to pull out wins more than Weibo survivors are able to pull out wins. Just a little bit better than Weibo survivors at everything. Look at hunting. The first round Bonbon is great. The sculptor is very good, very consistent. Oh wait, who else do we say that about? Ken. Ken's Bonbon's the best in the world. Ken's sculptor was the top one sculptor in China. Ken's just a little bit better than D at everything. and that's how it's always been. It's almost a mirror match, and ZQ is better survivor and hunter than against Weibo. So the only chance Weibo ever has to beat ZQ is to have a miraculous first round like they had last time, where they actually beat Ken, and that's why they were on pace to beat them. In a 3 round matchup like it is here, they would have beat them. But in a 5 round matchup, you were able to see that they couldn't last with ZQ because they're just a tiny bit worse than ZQ at everything. I don't think Ken's Bonbon is going to lose again. I'm sorry. I don't see it getting four-manned again. And so unless his Bonbon gets four-manned, ZQ will beat Weibo and ZQ will move on to the semifinals.
Similar thoughts there. So I believe now the final matchup to analyze is GD versus Dow 5. Oh, why are these matches so tough to call?
This is such a cool matchup because, in my opinion, this is GD is arguably the best global team. I mean, just stability wise, hunting wise. I will say this. Not I won't even say best global team. GD is the most mainland China like team in global. I think that's a fair statement, and that they're very strong. Dow 5, on the other hand, has like the best hunter in the world, and their serves are very stable. So that's what makes this matchup actually really interesting, because GD really can beat Dow 5. It is not impossible. And if you asked me this question 2 months ago, I actually think I'd be picking GD to beat Dow 5. But the biggest difference is Dow 5 survivors have actually improved a lot. Also, Nonino runs hard meta. He runs a mirror lineup to DX, and while Nonino is very strong, DX is the best hunter. And so when you're running a mirror lineup to DX, I think DX just has the upper hand. And survivor wise, I actually think GD survivors are on par with Dow 5 survivors, but it will come down to DX is probably just the better hunter here. And that's why I have to pick Dow 5.
I think I'm in a similar boat to you there. These are two, again, all these. That is some. Again, I know I'm gonna go back to this. This is probably the most even, like, second round ever. All these teams are so closely matched. This can really go any way. This can be a hard bracket to predict. But I think end of the day, like you said, DX is DX, and Dow 5 survivors have improved. I think Nino's going to really, I think Dow 5 survivors are at a point where they can, tie Nino. And I think DX is just a hunter that. One thing I remember is DX is the best hunter. It's also because he can be so unique. His Dream Witch plays unlike any other Dream Witch in the world. You don't really, like, it's like you said for, BL. You don't just get to face DX. You don't get that experience. And I think that it's going to really come down to just DX can do his job. And Nino's going to have a bit more difficult time doing his job, especially these Dow 5 survivors improve. I will say this. I think that if Dow 5 survivors drop the ball, like, Dow 5 fans are probably worried of them doing, I think that GD can beat Dow 5. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that Dow 5 survivors will really keep up this consistency that they've shown, and I'll give it over to Dow 5. So we are into the semifinals.
So the first matchup in the semifinals is GR versus Tiamba. GR versus Tiamba. This is a fun matchup. Usually I'd say, oh, GR, easily. And let's move on. But Tiamba is a lot better now. Tiamba's hunters are very formidable, that lineup. And Tiamba survivors are basically just as good as GR survivors. So really it comes down to PPX versus the combination of QY and Tao Jing. But this is why I give it to GR. Experience. I think if experience matters in any matchup, it matters here. Because you're facing PPX, a two-time COA champion hunter, compared to QY. He didn't play competitive before IVL, and Tao Jing, he made last COA, but he lost first round to Japan. These two hunters are not nearly as experienced under pressure like PPX is. They don't know how to. They don't. You know, QY is actually a hunter that has struggled a lot due to pressure. Tao Jing has struggled a lot due to pressure. PPX plays better because of pressure. GR survivors play better because of pressure. So while Tiamba on paper is almost basically just as good as GR, this is where I have to start to say the experience factor for GR and the pressure will help them in this matchup, which is why I'm picking GR. How about you?
Same here. I think as good as Tiamba is, and as much of a turnaround this team has made, GR thrives under pressure, and the experience. GR has found themselves literally in this spot. This will be their fourth time sitting in this exact spot, sitting in the semifinals, looking on to the finals, and yeah, I think that really this experience is going to make a huge difference. Also, want to say one thing we haven't really mentioned in what could be the coupling factor in the X-Rock match, and even in the SST match, is they tend to bring Tao Jing in second round, but Tao Jing's second round is extremely inconsistent, and I can actually see GR exploiting that second round, even after a strong first round. I can see them exploiting Tao Jing's second round, and then moving in for the kill with, and just setting Tiamba at a disadvantage in the third round, and then PPX doing his job there, and the survivors doing their job there.
It's actually a great point about that. Like that may actually play a factor in that X-Rock matchup now that I think about it. But for sure in this GR matchup, which is I think the GR is just great at exploiting, hunter like inconsistent hunters like Sculptor, for example. So that may play a big factor overall in this matchup.
There's also a strength to Tao Jing, as Tao Jing is extremely versatile. And while it's also inconsistent there, coming in the second round, he has a very good Dream Witch, Bonbon, Sculptor, and Anne. If I'm Tiamba looking at this matchup, Tiamba needs to get a jump in this third round. They need to have a pop off. The survivors have to be able to beat or handle PPX in some way, and QY has to handle GR in some way. And if they go into that point and you are Tao Jing, you are just going to have to go Bonbon and Anne and try to get those ties and have the survivors do their job. Because Tiamba is a very strong survivor team. I think that if Tiamba can get this lead, they can pull that upset. They can pull a massive upset. But end of the day, I think it's just more likely that it goes the other way and that GR just exploits Tiamba and that Tiamba really just struggles under the pressure.
Yeah.
Now, on to the other side of the bracket.
So we have ZQ versus Dow 5.
Another rematch of the first IVL.
Yep. A rematch of the first IVL finals ever. The summer finals was Dow 5 versus ZQ. And you may not know, but that matchup was actually very, very close, similar to the Weibo. Dow 5 almost beat, ZQ, and the most notable matchup is Dow 5 is DX's Wu Chang formatting ZQ on Lakeside, and it just really played well. ZQ versus Dow 5 is always the battle of the Titans. It's ZQ Survivors versus DX's Hunter. Who prevails? The best survivor team in the world or the best hunter in the world? But the difference is when you use that, you forget about the supporting cast. You forget about ZQ's hunters and you forget about Dow 5 survivors. And ZQ's hunting is still top 3 in the world, while Dow 5 survivors are not top 3 in the world. And that's why ZQ usually has that advantage over Dow 5. So here I think this will just be such a fun matchup for the world to be able to watch DX versus ZQ survivors. this may be the single best matches in all of COA. Just first round, DX's Dream Witch versus ZQ. You will be able to see just amazing gameplay right there. However, in the end, going 3 rounds, I just have to favor ZQ over Dow 5 and go with ZQ winning and advancing to finals.
Same for me here. It's just that ZQ's gotten better at matching DX also. They've gotten better. I mean, although to be fair, DX is the only hunter. Or no, DX was one of very, very, very few hunters could beat ZQ last season, survivor-wise. DX was one of them. I believe he four-manned them, especially after a rough start that ZQ had an arm sack race and Dream Witch.
Yep.
But again, it's kind of like, how Weibo, four-manned Ken. I just don't see the likelihood of that happening. I just don't, because you got to remember in that match, ZQ made a monumental, rookie type throw, and DX is too good. DX just punished that. I don't see ZQ doing that again. I see ZQ playing at their peak here, and as good as DX does, I think that ZQ can outzone them. We're on the same side, and like you said, and that's where the supporting cast comes in. The supporting cast, I think that Ken and Yang can really just put a damper more into that Dow 5 Survivor team. I'm going to go with ZQ here. Before, though, we get into the finals, we do got to get into the third place match.
Yep.
Which is going to be Tiamba versus Dow 5.
Tiamba versus Dow 5. That's a very interesting matchup. Two IVO teams facing off. I'll give my quick thoughts about this matchup. I am going with Dow 5 here. I think Tiamba serves are better than Dow 5, but I think we've seen Dow 5 versus Tiamba matchup a lot, and it usually comes down to DX. He wins, and while as good as Tiamba's survivors are, DX is just that good that he wins through them. And that's what it's going to come down to here, too. DX beating Tiamba's survivors. And if he's able to do that, I think the Dow 5 survivors are more than capable of being able to consistently tie QY and consistently tie Tao Jing. And if they can consistently tie for 3 rounds, you have to expect DX to win one or two of those rounds. And if he does that, then Dow 5 wins this matchup. So that's why I am favoring Dow 5 here.
Similar boat here. And it's also just, I think one thing that actually, it could, like I said, it could even hurt Tiamba a lot in the first round. Tiamba is not used to being where they are. Tiamba is going to have the rookie effect because they're going to face X-Rock, who's basically been doing this since COA 1. And they're going to face GR, who's basically been doing this since COA 1. And then they're going to be facing Dow 5, who is, they made it to the finals of IVL and always been a contender. I just don't know how Tiamba does under pressure. That's what kind of worries me, is on this stage, how will Tiamba do? But I think that while Tiamba has a good chance, it's weird for me, dude, but I just think that DX could really edge it. And I think if these Dow 5 survivors just hold up, that'll be, I'll say this. I think that if Dow 5 survivors did not improve, I think that I would actually predict Tiamba to upset it. But I'm scared to put faith in Dow 5 survivors sometimes, because every time I've gone on a limb and done it, it didn't work out for me. But I'm going to do it here once again. Hopefully it's not a mistake. I think that Dow 5 survivors are going to perform well. And I think that if DX just pops off and can handle Tiamba, I'll give it to Dow 5. I'll go with you. And I'll put Dow 5 taking third place in the world and Tiamba taking fourth, which is very respectable from both sides if this is, true. Or comes out to be true. And this moves us into the big big finals. The final game.
GR versus ZQ. This is just such an iconic matchup. This is GR. This is the winner of every single COA. This is PPX. This is the most popular, famous team in the entire world. The most famous player in the world. Against what most people will say is, and they won the last two IVLs, the best team in the world. ZQ, as of right now, there's no really denying. ZQ is the best team in the world. While GR is the most winningest team in the world, and they're the most famous team in the world. IVL started ZQ's first ever game was against GR actually. It was ZQ versus GR to start off IVL fall season week 1. And that was when right after GR won COA, ZQ was a new team, and ZQ destroyed that team in 2 rounds. I mean, they owned PPX's very much, and Ken's Bonbon four-man them. And then the second round, it was very, much of the same with Ken's violinist four-manning them again. So in the first ever matchup, ZQ owned GR, and that's how they were really introduced to the world. So that's why it's so, iconic to see ZQ versus GR. However, as of late, when they faced in the IVL fall playoffs, GR really at one point had the advantage to beating ZQ. They really had the advantage, and they should have beaten ZQ. However, in fifth round they slipped up. Both teams went Bloody Queen. All GR had to do was tie as Bloody Queen from a hunter perspective, and then tie a Bloody Queen from a survivor perspective, and they win. However, ZQ Bloody Queen was able to win fifth round, and PPX lost Bloody Queen fifth round, which is why ZQ ended up winning against GR. More things go into it, of course. Like Ken playing Anne and getting four-man after not being very experienced with Anne. But overall, that was just a really good 5 rounds, and it's shown the growth of GR to come in the first ever matchup and get destroyed by ZQ, to then really be on the verge of beating ZQ, and that's why this is going to be an amazing, 5-round showdown between ZQ and GR. Both teams are very good. PBX is very strong. GR survivors are very strong. CQ survivors are very strong, and Ken is very strong. I want you to get into it and say your opinions and who do you think will win this.
This is a good matchup. I think what's going to actually be is these ZQ survivors. I think will actually be a very dictating factor. I think that ZQ survivors, PPX, I don't know if Hunter's PPX is going to really fully come in with. I think if he goes Dream Witch, his chances of beating ZQ with Dream Witch are low. I don't know how he's going to be able to handle that. I don't know. Again, ZQ has been really in the shadows. If ZQ has been playing like they played in the past, I think it's going to be hard for PPX to get a grip. I think PPX can go Bonbon, and I think he can tie potentially ZQ. But I think what's going to actually really kind of prevail over this is I don't know how well ZQ, how PPX to be able to take a grip onto ZQ. It's going to be tough for him because his lineup really orients TIE Hunters, but also his TIE Hunters, ZQ has a history of being able to handle and beat some of them. And then on top of that, his Dream Witch is very good, but I do think that ZQ can pull through there. And on the other side, Ken is just such a dominant hunter. I think that there's actually points where Ken can legitimately beat this GR team, and at the same time, it's kind of this matchup. I think that ZQ survivors can actually beat PPX in certain areas, but I struggle to see where GR survivors are going to be able to beat Ken, especially if they get a lead and he doesn't have to really, play too many risky hunters and he can just sink in and do what he's really strong with. And then I'm not really even factoring YMM into this. I mean, Yang. I don't know where I'm going to put Yang into this. I don't know what ZQ will run, but assuming they go their whole Ken strat that they tend to favor, I see ZQ winning this. I really do. As good as GR is, as good of a fight that GR can put up, I think that ZQ's talent is just going to pose such an issue for GR. Is where can they break through? The more I run it, it's harder for me to really find scenarios that I can say, okay, GR can confidently clamp down on ZQ right here. On the other side, I'm like, I can see where ZQ can really clamp into GR. So I'm going to go with ZQ winning here and handing GR its first ever COA defeat. What are you going to do? What's your call?
I think if GR is going to win this, PPX better be PPX. Like, he better 4-man ZQ survivors as Dream Witch. That's what he has to do. He has to play like that. The issue is PPX after first round. How is he going to win a round against ZQ's survivors? Like, really think about it. Once they play in the Dream Witch, if he doesn't get it done first round Dream Witch, he won't get it done because his sculptor, has kind of gone. He doesn't really focus his sculptor as much. His Bonbon's a tie hunter. His Bloody Queen's a tie hunter. While Ken still has more to pull out. He has Bonbon, which is originally a tie hunter, but GR has struggled so much against Ken's Bonbon. Ken's Bonbon regularly 4-mans them. That's going to be an issue for GR. And then Ken can always pull out just random hunters you may not expect, such as Axe Boy for a win, Violinist for a win, etc. That he just has a much more extensive lineup than PPX, and that may play a big factor into this. I think it'll be an amazing 5-round matchup that I can't wait to see. But even I have to say, I think GR's reign of COA championships, it comes to an end. It comes to an end in COA 4. I really think ZQ gets it done. They're just a better team in my opinion. And ZQ are the champions of COA the Best 4 Global Finals.
I agree, man. I want to give it, that's right. I would put ZQ. I also want to say this. I think one thing I actually want to put on this is on either side. This is even our bracket a little bit already. I want to say that I think whoever wins the matchup of GRGG and Weibo ZQ, I think it lines up to this exact same point. That is one thing I do want to note.
I agree.
I do believe that if GG beats GR, which is likely, it's not it's a close matchup, and technically GG's favored. We're picking an upset with GR. But I do believe that if GG beats GR, I think that GG beats Tiamba, but then loses to either ZQ or Weibo. I think same thing. I think if Weibo beats ZQ, I think Weibo takes it home. But this is going to be an incredible COA. This is probably even though we're more experienced now, I still think this is going to be near impossible to call COA, because just the more we get into this, the more I realize this is a COA where there's really no weak teams. Not that all COA teams ever are weak, but this is a COA where almost any matchup can go any way, technically. And you've seen these global teams take the step to improve, but they're really facing the looming threat of now China has been professionalized, and I think that the professionalization of China is going to be what dictates this whole COA.
Yeah. I think, like you said, basically almost, definitely almost, but almost every matchup can go either way. So while our predictions, I'm really confident about our predictions, I do see COA going this way. I won't be surprised if you see Weibo beat ZQ. I won't be surprised if you see MRC in the finals. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll see SMT versus SST or BL versus B4U or RD versus GD. Who knows what we'll see in the finals? I just think the professionalism of these China mainland teams is going to prove to be too much, and that's why I have ZQ winning. I have a ZQ versus GR iconic matchup. That's of course what I want to see, but I also think that's just what is from these matchups what makes the most sense. But I hope you guys did enjoy me and Fluff's prediction video slash podcast, whatever you want to call it. This went on for hours. So definitely grab your popcorn if you're watching. And
well, I think they've already watched at this point.
Well, I know some people just cut to the end to see the prediction. If you did that, if you cut to the end to see the prediction, go back to the beginning, watch the whole podcast. It's definitely long, but it's worth it if you're really interested in COA. It lets you get an insight to all of these teams before it starts, so that when you watch a COA matchup, you know what to expect. You have history. You may have seen a team that you kind of, oh, that's a Mad Eyes main. I kind of like RD now. I want to see RD's Mad Eyes. Or I kind of like GG's Bomb Bomb, etc. So that's why I really like doing these, like we did last year. If you did enjoy this video, please give a like. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to subscribe to Fluff's channel. And
Thank you.
That'll be all for the video. Bye bye.
Bye.